Chapter 1893. Regain her freedom? Ning Shi couldn't believe it. He loved Ning Shueluo so much that even though he knew what she had done him back then, he could easily forgive her just because she cried and apologized. But now the man in front of her was telling her that he regretted it and wanted to divorce Ning Shueluo. Ning Shi couldn't tell how she felt at the moment. After a long while, Ning Shi said coldly, Suyin, some things are like a cotton-padded jacket in summer and a cattail leaf fan in winter. And when a person is disheartened, he will change his mind. Su Yan's pupils suddenly shrank. Xiaoxi, I know you hate me, but I also know that it's because you love me. I know it's too late now, but Xiaoxi, believe me, everything I said just now is true, and I will definitely do it. I will marry you, and I will take care of everything. You will still be Mrs. Su. Everything between us will start over again. Huh. Hearing that Su Yin was so sure that she would come back to him as long as he divorced her, Ning Shi chuckled and didn't say anything more. She also couldn't figure out who gave this person in front of her such confidence. She had been with him for so many years. Why did he think that she would always wait for him? Xiaoxi, wait for me, Su Yin said and turned to leave. Ning Shi glanced at the man's back in the dark and didn't do anything. She certainly wouldn't stop him. She wanted to see if Su Yin would really divorce her and what Ning Shueluo's expression would be if he did. After Su Yin left, Tang Nuo hurriedly ran over and asked worriedly, Sister, are you okay? What did he say to you? Nothing, just a bunch of nonsense. Let's go, Ning Shi said carelessly. Seeing Ning Shi's pale face, Tang Nuo blamed himself. Sister, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Actually, it was Su Yin who called me, and I knew you were back, so I asked you to meet me. I didn't expect that he did it on purpose. Well, someone used you shamelessly. It has nothing to do with you. Don't blame yourself. Ning Shi was talking to Tang Nuo when her phone suddenly rang. Ning Shi looked at the sweetheart on the caller ID and her eyes softened. She smiled and answered the call. Hello, honey? Hearing Ning Shi calling him honey in a soft and sweet voice, Lu Tingxiao felt as if he was wrapped in a ball of honey. His deep voice revealed the owner's happy mood. Well, are you done? I'll pick you up. I'm done. Have you finished your meeting? Ning Shi asked. It's just finished. There's still some work left. Very soon. Then don't rush over. I'll go find you. Wait for me, Ning Shi said considerately. Okay. He naturally wouldn't refuse his wife's visit. Is it brother-in-law? Is it brother-in-law? Tang Nuo's eyes lit up as he asked. Yes, I'm going to the company to find him. Go back to your dormitory. Ning Shi chuckled. Okay, sister, be careful on the way back. Say hello to brother-in-law for me. When Tang Nuo saw that Ning Shi answered the phone call from her brother-in-law, the indifference and gloom on his face disappeared, and his tense mood also relaxed at once. Fortunately, such a person had appeared. He could make his sister forget the past and start over. Chapter 1894. Lu Group. When Cheng Feng heard that the lady boss was coming, he hurriedly went down to welcome her. Ning Shi followed Cheng Feng and took the elevator to the top floor. After bringing Ning Shi to the office, Cheng Feng immediately left, but before leaving, he couldn't help but take another look at Ning Shi. Sweetheart, I'm coming. As soon as the door behind her closed, Ning Shi immediately took off her mask and happily bounced towards Lu Tingxiao. Coming. Hearing the girl's voice, Lu Tingxiao, who was dealing with official business, subconsciously raised his head from a pile of contract documents. In the next second, when he saw the girl in front of him clearly, his expression suddenly froze and his cold eyes instantly darkened. Ning, she was actually wearing a school uniform. If he wasn't mistaken, it should be the female school uniform of the Capital University. Previously, Lu Jingli had shown him a magazine album and said that he wanted to use it as a reference for the company's employee uniform, but he rejected it, so he had some impression of it. At this moment, the girl was wearing a uniform short skirt with a refreshing ponytail. She didn't have any makeup on her face, but her eyebrows were like a distant black, her lips were like cherry blossoms, and her skin was even more delicate. She stood there charmingly, and it was impossible to tell that she was an artist who had been in the entertainment industry for so long. She was completely a naive and romantic university student, Sweetheart, I want a hug. Ningxi had just been disgusted by a certain scum. At this moment, seeing Lu Tingxiao was like seeing a clear spring. She immediately went around the desk and rubbed herself against him. When Lu Tingxiao reacted, he had already hugged the girl. Ningxi sat on the man's lap, nestled in his embrace that was full of fresh and safe air, and rubbed her small head on the man's chin. The man carefully hugged the warm, fragrant, soft, jade-like girl in his arms and gently stroked the girl's small head. His voice was somewhat hoarse. "Why are you dressed like this?" Only then did Ningxi remember that she was still wearing the school uniform. She immediately scratched her head in realization. Because I just went to the capital university to see Xiao Nuo, so I asked Su Tao to find me some inconspicuous clothes. In the end, I don't know where he found a school uniform for me. No wonder when she came over just now, Cheng Feng and a few other employees looked at her with strange expressions. Oh, did they think she was playing uniform seduction with Lu Tingxiao? How tragic. She really didn't do it on purpose. But, of course, it could be done on purpose. The girl's quick-witted eyes turned, and she immediately bent her eyebrows and moved closer. "Sweetheart, do I look good in this?" The man's eyes darkened. "You look good." A smug look appeared on the girl's face. I wasn't bragging before. You've really gotten yourself a treasure by marrying me. I wasn't just trying to coax you when I said I wanted you to feel like you're getting a new wife every day. The girl hummed proudly as she wriggled around on his body. Lu Tingxiao frowned and said, "Be a good girl. Go sit on the sofa for a while. I'll take care of the rest of the things." Ningxi's face fell. "No, I'll sit here. Will you handle it?" Lu Tingxiao, no. Ningxi felt even more wronged. "Then I won't disturb you. I won't talk anymore, okay?" Looking at the clingy little wife in his arms, Lu Tingxiao helplessly pinched the space between his eyebrows. After a while, he sighed, held the girl's hand, and pressed it down on a certain part of his body. Ningxi blinked, not knowing why she was being led. The next second, she felt the hardness and heat in her palm, and her eyes immediately widened. Lu Tingxiao kissed the girl's neck and said in an extremely hoarse voice, "I'll be distracted." Chapter 1895. Why was she distracted? She expressed her innocence. She hadn't done anything just now, had she? She had only spoken a few words to him. However, she was still very happy that she had managed to flirt with the devil so easily. Ningxi raised her little head and looked at the man's obviously forbearing expression. She blinked and said, "Well, sweetheart, actually my body is almost recovered. Annie has been prescribing medicine for me, and Mom has been making tonic soup for me every day. So, you don't have to be patient," the girl said as she raised her chin and kissed the man's cold and thin lips. After hearing the girl's hint, Lu Tingxiao's body suddenly stiffened and he remained motionless. A moment later, the big hand on the girl's waist suddenly tightened. The man held the back of her head and kissed her hard. The space on the chair was too narrow, so Ningxi's waist was forced to lean against the desk behind her. She felt a little uncomfortable from being kissed, so she hummed. The next second, her body suddenly flew up, and she was placed on the wide and soft sofa in the office. She lay on the sofa and looked at the man who was suspended in front of her. Her usually cold and lusterless eyes were now filled with incomparable heat. Her frozen face was stained with desire, making it 100 times more attractive and sexier than usual. At the thought that the man's passion was all because of her, this thought filled her heart with even more satisfaction. Seeing that the man leaned over and was about to kiss her again, Ningxi deliberately reached out to stop his kiss and smiled. "Well, didn't you say you had something to deal with? Is it okay?" The man's Adam's apple moved up and down. He held the girl's hand and gently kissed the girl's palm. "I've already dealt with it." Ningxi felt the itchy heat in her palm, and a numbness ran from the soles of her feet to her nerve endings. "Okay, so you lied to me just now. Are you sure your body is okay?" Ningxi chuckled. "It's really okay. Let me tell you, even if I go up the mountain to fight a tiger, I'll be fine. Not to mention..." With that, Ningxi paused. Then, she suddenly turned around and pounced on the man in front of her. She then said softly, "Not to mention, pouncing on you." The moment Ningxi's voice fell, there seemed to be something in the man's eyes. He suddenly broke out of the cage and turned into a raging flame, engulfing her. His slender fingers reached in her collar and unbuttoned her uniform one by one. Drip! The man's sweat dripped onto the girl's skin. The belt buckle was unfastened, and at the same time, the zipper of Ningxi's skirt was also unfastened at this moment. Lu Tingxiao's breathing was already chaotic, and his honey-colored skin was covered in sweat. If you feel uncomfortable, tell me. Ningxi's mind was in a mess. In fact, she didn't hear what the man was saying at all. She just nodded subconsciously. The next second, that thing roared into her body with terrible force, and Ningxi curled up like a shrimp. Chapter 1896. Feeling the girl's body tense up, the man stopped what he was doing. Such a pause was simply torture to him. Uncomfortable, Ningxi almost couldn't speak. Why? Why did it still hurt so much even though it wasn't the first time? Boss. Are you sure? Are you? Is your size normal? Seeing that Lu Tingxiao was still worried about her even at such a time, Ningxi's tensed body unknowingly softened. She smiled and rubbed the man's neck. I'm fine. The girl's gentle tone and expression completely broke the man's last shred of self-control in the spacious office. Only the sweet and ambiguous melody was left at this time. Ningxi's phone suddenly rang in her bag. Ningxi's dazed mind regained a bit of clarity. Phone, however, before she could finish her sentence, she had already lost all ability to think due to the Demon King's increasingly intense movements. She could only float along with him. Later on, Ningxi finally realized how naive and ignorant she had been. She had miscalculated. How could a tiger be as ferocious as her boss? She had even shamelessly said that there was definitely something wrong with her body. But the problem was, even if her body was perfectly fine, she might not be able to withstand the Demon King's demands. She was suddenly a little worried about her future. At the same time in Deer Town, Baby Xiao Bao stood up immediately. I'm going to look for Mommy. The little fellow finally panicked when he couldn't get through to Ningxi's phone. Just then, Lu Jingli called Lu Tingxiao, but he also couldn't get through. If it was only Ningxi or Lu Tingxiao who couldn't get through, he might have been worried. But both of them couldn't get through at the same time. So, thinking of this, Lu Jingli's expression suddenly became meaningful. He said hesitantly, wait, baby. Trust me, your mother is fine. But Mommy wouldn't ignore Xiao Bao's call. Xiao Bao's face was stiff. There must be something she can't get away from. Lu Jingli explained. He suddenly had an ominous feeling. The dog food this time was probably enough to fill him to death. That's impossible. No matter what happens, Mom will never refuse to answer Xiao Bao's call. Xiao Bao's tone was firm. Lu Jingli shook his head sympathetically. He thought to himself, Darling, you really do have it, and I'm afraid you'll be abused many times in the future, and this is just the beginning. Don't worry, I'll make another call and ask. As Lu Jingli spoke, he called Cheng phone. Hello, Special Assistant Cheng, have you seen my sister-in-law? Lu Jingli asked directly. I saw it. The lady boss just came to the company. Cheng Feng answered truthfully. Where is she now? I'm not sure about that. I've already gotten off work, but when I left, the boss and the lady boss hadn't left yet. Cheng Feng thought for a long time. Finally, he coughed lightly and hesitantly added, Cough. Second young master, if you don't have anything urgent, it's better not to disturb me now. As expected, this young master is really smart. All right, I understand. Lu Jingli hung up the phone. All right, you don't have to worry anymore. However, Xiao Bao sighed. Lu Jingli held back his tears from eating too much. He resigned himself to his fate and helped coax the child for a long time. Finally, Xiao Bao was appeased. Forget it. It wasn't easy for his brother to endure for so long. This time, he wouldn't care about the dog food. Chapter 1897. Late at night, Su Mansion. After Su Yin left Imperial City University, he returned home without a moment's delay. In the living room, Zheng Minjun had just finished a call with a lady she was close to and was about to sleep when she heard the sound of a car engine at the door followed by footsteps. Her son had returned from a business trip for many days. Seeing her son return, Zheng Minjun's face instantly lit up. Su Yin is back. Why are you so late? Weren't you supposed to be home yesterday? Su Yin did not answer. Where are Dad and Shui Luo? Your dad is upstairs in the study. Shui Luo seems to have a dinner party tonight. She's not back yet. Su Yin nodded slightly and then walked upstairs. I'm going to find Dad. I have something to discuss with him. Zheng Minjun had been asking around about Ningxi and the Zhuang family for the past 2 days. Now that Su Yin had finally returned, she wanted to ask her son's opinion first. However, seeing that Su Yin was in a hurry, it seemed like there was something urgent. She could only put it aside for now. Oh, okay, go quickly. In the study, under the desk lamp, Su Hongwang was looking at a land auction with a serious expression. This land was very important to them, but without the internal connections of the higher-ups, it was almost impossible to compete with the other 2 companies. This was how it was in this circle. Sometimes, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven without that bit of connections. Su Hongwang's eyes darkened. He could not help but recall what his wife had said that day. After all, Su Yin and Shui Luo had been married for so long. The Su and Ning families were now inseparable. Divorce would affect everything, so he told Zheng Minjun not to be impulsive. However, at this moment, if Su Yin could marry Ningxi, it would bring great benefits. No matter how determined he was, it was enough to sway him. If he could really unite with the Zhuang family through marriage, then all the trouble that would come with divorce would be a small problem. Su Hongwang was lost in thought when he suddenly heard his son's familiar voice. Father. Su Hongwang snapped out of his thoughts and looked up at his son. You're back. Su Yin nodded. His expression looked a little different than usual. Father, I have something to discuss with you. Seeing Su Yan's unusual expression, Su Hongwang straightened his face. Have a seat. It's already so late. What's the matter? Su Yin didn't sit down. Instead, he stood in front of the desk with his back straight. He seemed to have made up his mind. He looked at Su Hongwang with certainty and said word by word, Father, I'm going to divorce Shui Luo. The moment he finished speaking, Su Hongwang's expression changed due to shock. At the same time, a dark light flashed across his eyes. Su Hongwang suppressed the messy thoughts in his mind and looked at his son with an extremely serious expression. Do you know what you're saying? Father, I know that you and Mother will definitely object, and you will definitely not understand my impulsive and unreasonable behavior. But this matter, I definitely did not do it on a whim. I have been thinking about it for an entire year. I've made up my mind. Su Yan's tone was very firm. Rather than discussing it with him, it would be more accurate to say that she had come to inform him. If Su Hongwang hadn't known Ningxi's identity, he would have been furious to hear Su Yin talk about divorce. But, so everything was a little different. Chapter 1898. So, although Su Hongwang's expression was solemn, he also felt relieved. You have to give a reason for such a big thing. But what did Shui Luo do wrong? Su Yin clenched his fists. No, it's not that Shui Luo did anything wrong. It's my fault. I owe someone too much. Su Hongwang's eyes instantly lit up. One person? Don't tell me you're talking about that girl Ningxi? Su Yin nodded. Father, you know what happened between me and Ningxi. No matter what, I betrayed her first. She suffered so much alone. I just found out that we all misunderstood her this year. She wasn't as dirty as the rumors say. She was a kept woman. She got into a car accident and fell into a deep coma. She was bedridden for a whole year. So that was it. In fact, Su Hongwang had already seen through his son's thoughts. After all, he was a man and understood a man's thoughts. No man would be able to resist a woman like Ningxi. In the past, he didn't think much of Ningxi's devotion to his son. But now that she suddenly ignored him and looked so stunning, it naturally attracted his son's attention. Plus, the fact that Ningxi had disappeared for a year triggered his son's pity and regret. He could understand why his son suddenly asked for a divorce. I already know what happened to Ningxi, Su Hongwang said. Father, you know about it too? Su Hongwang didn't pay much attention to the entertainment industry, so Su Yin was surprised. A glint flashed across Su Hongwang's eyes. As he observed his son's expression, he said, Ningxi is the Zhuang family's acknowledged niece. She has a high status. How could she do such a thing, as the rumors say? Hearing this, Su Yin was slightly surprised. Father, you mean the Zhuang family has recognized Ningxi? That's right. Su Hongguang nodded. And your mother saw it with her own eyes at Minister Li's wife's private party. Meng Linlang brought her along and introduced her to everyone. Su Yin pondered. I guess the Zhuang family already knew about Ningxi's background when I married Shuo Luo, but the Zhuang family has always been low-key, so no one knew. Yes, that must be the case. Su Hongguang said earnestly, back then, your mother and I were kept in the dark by the Ning family. After all, we didn't know. With Ningxi's status and upbringing, there was no way she could enter the Su family. Now, since we know that she is not only the flesh and blood of the Ning family, but also the granddaughter of the Zhuang family, this identity is suitable for our Su family. Su Yin understood the meaning behind his father's words and was pleasantly surprised. So, Father, you mean you agree? Su Hongguang didn't answer directly, but asked, how are you going to settle Shuo Luo's side? She didn't do anything wrong, and you suddenly want to divorce her. Will Shuo Luo be willing? Will the Ning family agree? Fault? Su Yin recalled what Shuo Luo had done to Ningxi that year. Although he was unable to tell Su Hongguang the truth, his heart felt like it was being stabbed by needles. He didn't know why he had let her do that to Ningxi, but he still chose to forgive her. Chapter 1899. At that time, his heart was filled with this weak girl. He was her sky, her earth, her only support, and everything. She said that she did the wrong thing because she was too afraid of losing him. He was touched by her deep love and forgave her. He always thought that after the hospital exposed her identity, Shuo Luo only had himself, so he tolerated her everything and protected her from harm. But the fact was that although her identity was exposed, Shuo Luo was still the eldest daughter of the Ning family. She had a good family background and was loved by Ning Yaohua and Zhuang Lingyu. Even he betrayed Ningxi and stood on her side. On the contrary, Ningxi left her adoptive parents and was not accepted by her biological parents. In the end, it wasn't until time slowly woke him up that he finally understood how cruel everything he had done back then was to the other girl. It was not until he saw the girl working hard to shine that he realized that his feelings for her had never disappeared. Why did things become like this step by step? At the end of the day, it was because he was the eldest son of the Su family. Even though he had been recuperating in the countryside for many years, he was still proud. When he was lonely in the countryside, Ningxi's existence made him feel like a ray of warm light. However, as soon as he returned to the ostentatious capital, everything reminded him of his identity. Ningxi was incompatible with the upper class, so he gradually became sick of her and even began to escape from her. And at that time, Ningxi, who was beautiful and talented and often showed kindness to him, appeared. She was a perfect match for him, so it was hard for him not to be moved at the same time because of his pride. Even though he admired and pitied Ningxi's real identity was still a thorn in his heart, especially when Ningxi's identity was exposed in public, and everyone in the circle had a tacit understanding. He was so proud. How could he stand those people who sympathized with him and took pleasure in his misfortune, gossiping in private that he had married a wild chicken? Now, all he did was return everything to the right track. Su Yan's wife should be the real daughter of a rich family. She should be noble. So now, even if he had to sacrifice everything, he wanted to make it up to her. He wanted to make it up to the girl who had waited for him for so long and loved him so deeply. He even wanted to fly to her side and tell her that he had regained his freedom. He couldn't wait to see a smile and a loving expression on the girl's cold and mocking face again. Thinking of this, Su Yan's gaze became even more resolute. I will deal with Shuo Luo's side, but as for the Ning family, I will have to trouble father and mother to coordinate. At this moment, various interests flashed through Su Hongguang's mind. In fact, he was almost completely convinced. He slowly said, if you've really made up your mind, your mother and I can only do this. If everything went well, As long as the relationship between Su Yin and Ning, she was confirmed, they might even have time to buy that piece of land. There was no need to mention the various conveniences in the future. As for Ning Shi, Su Hongwang seemed to be extremely at ease and didn't ask anything. That girl had always loved his son to death. Now that his son had divorced for her and was willing to marry her again, how could she not be willing? Chapter 1900. Su Hongwang's mind was racing, but he didn't know that all his plans were just a joke. Lu Group, CEO's office. The girl had been carried to the soft bed in the lounge by the man. On the bedside table, the flower petals in the vase trembled and fell. The girl's school uniform had already been completely taken off. Her porcelain white skin was steaming with sweet heat, even redder than the petals of a flower. Her body swayed along with the man's movements like a ball of soft jade, forming a sharp contrast with the hard and hot body in front of him. There was no rejection, no fear, no panic. There was no shadow or distracting thoughts. Only wholeheartedly. A feeling similar to satisfaction filled her heart. It turned out that this was the feeling between a man and a woman, beautiful and pure. After all, Lu Tingxiao had endured for too long. He had always been afraid of hurting the girl, but when he really did it with her, the words restraint and control were tantamount to torture for him. However, Lu Tingxiao seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed all of a sudden, and he immediately stopped moving. Ning Shi's messy hair stuck to her temples. Looking at the man's expression that was almost breaking down, she said in a hoarse voice, "What's wrong?" The girl's soft voice and glistening eyes were simply adding insult to injury. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's body was as taut as a bow, and his forehead was covered with a thin layer of sweat. "I don't have, huh? Don't have what?" Ning Shi was startled, but she quickly reacted. She smiled slightly and put her soft arms around the man's neck. "Oh, sweetheart, do you mean condoms?" Lu Tingxiao's face was extremely dark, and he nodded. "Yes." Ning Shi rubbed against the man's neck. "It's okay. It's a safe period." As Ning Shi spoke, her bright eyes gazed into the man's eyes attentively. She said, "Actually, sweetheart, I really want to give you a child." Hearing that the girl actually said that she wanted to give birth to his child, the man's pupils abruptly contracted almost at the instant the girl's voice fell. He only felt a sudden electric current running through his back, and then it actually came out just like that. "Damn it!" Lu Tingxiao cursed in a low voice. The burning heat in her body made Ning Shi's body tremble violently. Feeling the man's remorse, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Come on, Sir Boss. It's almost daybreak now. Even my strong body can't bear it. How much longer do you want?" Lu Tingxiao didn't immediately withdraw, but held the girl tightly. "Xiaoxi, are you sure? Are you really willing?" He had been worried about the trauma caused by what had happened in the past, so he never thought that she would be willing to be pregnant again, so he never mentioned it to her. Ning Shi's expression didn't change at all. She smiled and said, "Of course I'm sure. Come on, we're already married." "Is there anything wrong with me giving birth to your child?" After saying that, Ning Shi seemed to have thought of something, and a trace of worry flashed across her little face. "Oh, but I'm worried that Xiaobao won't like it. Actually, having Xiaobao is enough for me." She had suddenly said those words to Lu Tingxiao because she felt that the best way to express her feelings for him was to give birth to a child for him. Hearing the girl's words, Lu Tingxiao's eyes flickered and he said firmly, "Don't worry, Xiaoxi will like it. I promise." Chapter 1901. It was already late at night when Ning Shuo returned home from a social event. Ning Shuo was overjoyed when she saw the familiar shoes of the man at the door. Su Yin was back. She pushed open the bedroom door and saw Su Yin standing on the balcony through the floor-to-ceiling window. "Brother Yin, you're back. I missed you so much." Su Yan's body stiffened when he felt the soft body behind him. He turned around and looked at the girl in front of him. "Are you done?" Ning Shuo nodded and looked a little distressed. Recently, History and Starlight have been having a lot of problems, especially Starlight. Because of my sister's return, the promotional event for the world that we prepared for a long time was ruined, and Zishuan has been having a lot of problems. "All right, Brother Yin, do you know? My sister is back. Su Yin nodded. I heard. Ning Shuilua's eyes dimmed. She guessed that Su Yin must have known the truth about Ning Shi's disappearance for a year. She said, guiltily, I didn't expect such a big thing to happen to my sister this year. It's a pity that we didn't know, and we couldn't help. Su Yin didn't reply. He just looked at the dark night, sky not far away, with an unfathomable expression. Ning Shuilua looked at Su Yan's expression and felt a strong sense of unease. At the same time, she couldn't help but recall that Su Yin was supposed to be back from his business trip yesterday, but he suddenly disappeared for a whole day. Where did he go between the time he arrived at the airport and the time he went home? Was he really at the company? He didn't even come back at night. But as far as she knew, the company hadn't been that busy recently. Because she had been too busy for the past 2 days, she hadn't paid much attention to his whereabouts. When she came back just now, she was going to call his assistant, but she saw that Su Yin was already back. What worried her the most was that. Did Su Yin already know about Ning Shi and the Zhuang family? After knowing Ning Shi's identity, would he be like Zhang Minjun a year ago? She had already sensed that something was wrong with Su Yin. Because of Ning Shi's sudden disappearance, her worry was over before it even began. But now, Ning Shi was back. The more Ning Shuo thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. Damn it. How could she have forgotten such an important thing and neglected Su Yan's side? Even 10 companies were not as important as her capturing Su Yin and the Su family, including when it came to dealing with Zhang Minjun. The reason why she had remained calm until now was because she was most confident in Su Yin. No matter how much Zhang Minjun disliked her, as long as Su Yin stood on her side, then Zhang Minjun could not do anything to her. Even if Su Hongwang personally came forward, it would be useless. But now, looking at the man in front of her, who had always been in her control, she suddenly had no confidence. Even the way he looked at her at this moment gave her an extremely unfamiliar feeling. Since when did this man, who was so obedient and loyal to her, start to look at her with eyes that were no longer as hot and warm as before? If his heart wasn't with her, then where did it go? Ning Shuiluo's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. In the next second, her eyes immediately reddened and became misty. As if she had been greatly wronged, she threw herself into Su Yan's arms. Big brother Yan. What should I do? I'm so scared. Looking at the girl's extremely panicked expression, Su Yan held back the words that he was about to blurt out. What's wrong? What happened? Chapter 1902. Brother Yin, will you not want me anymore? The girl raised her head and asked in tears. When Su Yin heard this, his heart skipped a beat, probably due to his guilty conscience. He forced himself to remain silent. Su Yan's reaction made Ning Shuilua feel like a bucket of cold water had been poured on her head. She clenched her nails into her palms. Su Yan, he really had such a thought. Ning Shuilua's heart was filled with gloom, and she looked even more grieved. Brother Yin, do you know? No matter how hard I try, Grandpa will never look at me. He even thinks that I have ulterior motives. But I really just want to resolve the conflict between Grandpa and Mother. I know you mean well. Su Yin said absent-mindedly. I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe it's because Grandpa and Mother had a deep conflict, and I've always been closer to Mother, so Grandpa didn't care about me. But he recognized Ning Shi. Ning Shuilua's face was full of sadness when she said this. Su Yin patted the girl's shoulder. It has nothing to do with you. Maybe because Ningxi has the Zhuang family's blood in her. Ning Shuilua's face turned pale when she heard that. She smiled bitterly and said, That's right, bloodline. You're my biological sister after all. I'm nothing. Even Grandpa only recognizes you now. I know, I'm not worthy, but I'm scared. I'm really scared, Brother Yin. You know, Mother was very dissatisfied with me because of my identity. I've worked very hard for more than a year. Only then did she become satisfied with me. But ever since she saw Annie bringing Ningxi to Mrs. Li's private party, she started to treat me differently. I'm really scared. I'm scared that Mother will hate me and force me to leave you. Ning Shuilua was sobbing when she said this. She didn't mention a word about Su Yan's change of heart. She still believed that Su Yin loved her and was worried that they would be separated by their mother. The girl didn't doubt him at all, and she panicked because she was worried about being separated from him. Even though it took her a whole year to make up her mind, even though she had talked to her father just now. At this moment, Su Yin still hesitated. No matter what, he couldn't bring himself to say the words that he had prepared to say. Su Yin frowned, but in the end, he only said one sentence. Don't let your imagination run wild. The Ning family's background and how the Zhuang family treats her have nothing to do with you. In the first place, he didn't decide to divorce because of this. It was just that this fact, to a certain extent, strengthened his thoughts. But even if there was no such reason, he would still make this decision. Ning Shuo leaned into Su Yan's embrace and cried, "Brother Yin, I'm really tired, but as long as I know that I can be with you, as long as I know that you love me, I can endure anything. I'll gladly endure anything." Su Yan's expression became even more stiff. His originally firm heart started to waver. Indeed, Shuo Luo had sacrificed a lot for him. However, his feelings were different from before. He could not bear to part with Ning Shuo, but he did not feel the slightest bit of reluctance. His heart was filled with annoyance when he saw Ning Shuo's expression. At this moment, a dazzling face flashed across his mind. The strong desire to obtain that person's body immediately calmed the man's chaotic emotions due to Ning Shuo's crying. Chapter 1903. Looking at the woman crying in his arms, Su Yin didn't immediately say what he was going to say, but he was more determined. The man patted the woman in his arms, and a dark light flashed across his eyes. "Shuo, I know you've done a lot to be with me, and you've suffered a lot, but the biggest victim and the most innocent person is Ning Shi. You even did that to her." Ning Shuo's body suddenly stiffened. This was her Achilles heel. Damn it. If Su Yin hadn't found out about those two good-for-nothings, she wouldn't have been in so much trouble today. So that although this matter had severely frustrated Ning Shi, it was like a time bomb between her and Su Yin, so that she had always been at a disadvantage and in a passive position in the relationship between the three of them. Every time she saw Ning Shi, she had to pretend to be guilty and remorseful. That was enough. But she had to do this. If Su Yin found out that she did it on purpose, she would be doomed. Ning Shuo burst into tears, and her face was full of self-blame and pain. "I know. I've always known, so I didn't fight with my sister for anything all these years. I can even return everything to her. I just hope that my sister can forgive me. But Brother Yin, you know that my sister misunderstands me too much. She's not willing to accept any compensation from me. What if she is willing? You're willing to do anything? You're willing to return everything to her?" Su Yin suddenly asked. Ning Shuo was stunned by the question. She was speechless for a long time. Then, she was filled with anger. Bitch, she had actually hooked up with Su Yin in secret? Otherwise, why would Su Yin say such a thing? What was he hinting at? Return everything to her? Return what to her? Su Yin, dream on. Su Yin was her man, her husband, and she was the only Mrs. Su. This position would be hers, and she would never give it up. Su Yin didn't look at Ning Shuo's expression again, and directly changed the topic. "It's late. Go to sleep." He didn't mention it today, because he wanted her to be mentally prepared. It wouldn't be too late to talk about it after he dealt with all the follow-up problems and drew up the divorce agreement, so as not to cause more trouble. Ning Shuo did have some achievements in the business world and was praised by her peers, but she was just a woman after all. It was all thanks to the Ning family and the Su family. The Su family had invested a large amount of capital and shares in Ning Family International, History, and Starlight International. Starlight's shares were all directly transferred to her by him. After the divorce, as compensation, he could give all of these to her directly. He didn't want a single cent, so he wouldn't treat her unfairly. With these, she could live a good life. With Ning Yaohua and Zhuang's doting on her, she wouldn't have a hard life after the divorce. After Su Yin turned around and went to the bathroom, Su to say Su, I Su. After being with Su Yin for so many years, how could she not guess Su Yan's thoughts? Su. She Su. She Yin. Impossible. While Su Yin was taking a shower, Ning Shuo took out an exquisite amber bottle from the box at the bottom of the cabinet. She then lit up the incense and poured the liquid in the bottle. In an instant, the room was filled with a faint, sweet fragrance. Chapter 1904. That sweet fragrance seeped through the crack of the door and into the bathroom. Su Yin was taking a shower while thinking about how to deal with the aftermath of the divorce. When he thought of the shadow that appeared in his dreams every night, he thought that the girl would soon return to his side and belong to him completely. She would no longer be coveted by other men. The last trace of pity he had for Ning Shuo disappeared. He just wanted to make up for his mistakes and the damage he had caused. The water flowed over his body, and before he knew it, his lower body had a reaction. At the same time, his mind was filled with the image of a girl. She was wearing a red dress and walking on the red carpet. She was like a dazzling sun. She was dressed in white and sang softly like a fairy. She was wearing a school uniform, and her skin was as white as snow, even in the dark. She was wearing a white dress and looked like she was singing softly. He imagined touching her with his hands, kissing her. Su Yan's hand couldn't help but caress that place of his at this moment. The door of the bathtub was suddenly opened from the outside. Then he saw a mist rising, and Ning Shuo stood behind him. Her fingers touched her belt and untied the knot, and her nightgown fell to the ground. Su Yan's eyes suddenly turned scarlet when he saw the scene in front of him. The body behind the mist gradually turned into Ning Shi's appearance. The next second, the woman's wrist was suddenly dragged over and pressed against the cold wall. Then, the man used so much force that it was almost rough, and then he heard the sound of heavy breathing. Xiaoxi, Xiaoxi. In the middle of the night, Su Yin was lying on the bed unconscious. Ning Shuo picked up the nightgown beside her and looked at her bruised body. Her mind was filled with the name that Su Yin had just said, and her face was as ferocious as a ghost. Su Yin slept with her less and less often. In order to get pregnant as soon as possible, she had to use some special methods. In the past year, she only succeeded a few times because she used essential oil, but the worst result was that Su Yin had never called other women's names. But now, that bitch who couldn't even keep an eye on her own man, a good-for-nothing, a broken shoe who was raped and had a bastard. Why did she have? After Su Yin fell asleep, Ning Shuo's expression was extremely cold. She took out an old phone from a hidden safe and walked to the balcony on the top floor. Hello. After the phone was connected, the man's impatient voice came from the other end. Ning Shuo didn't notice the man's tone and said in a shrill voice, I want Ning Shi dead. Kill her for me. Now. Immediately. Now. After a short silence, a cold snort came from the other end of the phone. Miss Ning, please watch your tone. Do you think my Solomon is your family's errand company? The man's fierce tone calmed Ning Shuo down a little. She softened her tone and said, You can pay however much you want, as long as that woman completely disappeared from this world. I don't want you to kidnap anyone or threaten anyone. It's too easy to fail if you act in secret. I can't wait a moment longer. I want her dead right now. The man's tone became even more impatient. That woman is a public figure, and she has bodyguards by her side. It's so easy for you to assassinate her. Don't tell me you don't know the relationship between this woman and the Zhuang family. Last time you asked me to mess with Zhuang Rongguang, I was almost killed by you. Now you want me to kill Zhuang Zhongren's niece? Do you think I'm stupid? Chapter 1905. Ning Shuo's face darkened when she heard what the man said. At the same time, her heart was filled with disdain. Useless thing. You don't even dare to kill someone. How dare you call yourself the leader of a branch? I've been busy recently. Don't bother me with these things all day long. The man hung up the phone. Ning Shuo looked at the phone that was hung up. She was so angry that she almost broke her teeth. Damn it. If it wasn't for the fact that it was too risky to find someone from within the country, she wouldn't have to go through so much trouble and rely on a force that she couldn't control. She had done so many things for them in private, but they dropped the ball at such a critical moment. However, They had each other's secrets, so she couldn't do anything to him. She failed when she asked him to threaten the assistant to change the gun last time. This time, she was directly rejected. That damn bitch. Why is she so stubborn? Su Yin was obviously determined this time. He might have even joined forces with Su Hongguang and Zheng Minjun. Since she couldn't get rid of Ning Shi immediately, it was almost certain that Su Yin would ask for a divorce. She knew how important the Su family was to her. Her history and Starlight, especially her position in Ning Family International, were all closely related to the Su family. How could she allow that bitch Ning Shi to take back everything that she had? Bitch, you want to fight with me and divorce Su Yin? Do you think it's that easy? Ning Shuo lowered her head with a gloomy expression. She touched her lower abdomen. It seemed like there was only one way. A few days later, the Entertainment Light leaderboard was officially launched. Apart from the entertainment industry, there were a few other leaderboards that were not limited to the entertainment industry. For example, one of them was the man that all Chinese women want to marry. Although most of the celebrities in the entertainment industry were male, people from other circles could also be on the list. For example, the person who was always at the top of the leaderboard with a crushing number of votes every year was Lu Tingxiao. No matter how the other leaderboards changed, no matter how much blood was shed, Lu Tingxiao's ranking had never changed. Every time on the first day of the voting, his votes would start to rise at a terrifying speed, and then he would look down on everyone. Ning Shi laid on the bed with her head propped up. She flipped through the current ranking with her fingers. She couldn't help but click her tongue when she saw her sweetheart's #1 ranking. These girls were simply too scary. Oh, if they knew that the man they wanted to marry the most was already with her. What are you looking at? Lu Tingxiao sat on the chair beside the bed, maintaining a distance that was neither too far nor too close. After the last time, he almost couldn't stand her appearing within 3 steps of him. Just a touch could make him have a reaction, but considering her body condition, he hadn't touched her for the past few days. Ning Shi sat up and leaned over to show him the phone. Sweetheart, look, you're first again this year. What's this? Lu Tingxiao glanced at it. Don't you know? The most famous list in the industry. Every year, you are ranked #1 on the list of men that women want to marry the most. Ning Shi said with a stressed expression. Fuck, I have too many rivals in love. When Ning Shi said this, she didn't expect that she would slap herself in the face soon after. No one had as many love rivals as Lu Tingxiao did. Chapter 1906. Su Tao also attached great importance to this year's Entertainment Light list. He had already made a series of plans for Ning Shi to canvass votes. What was rare was that Jiang Mai was so attentive this time. In the past, he always found it troublesome. Lei Ming had to beg for his cooperation. But this time, he took the initiative. Not only did he cooperate with Jiang Mai, but he also agreed to hold a fan meeting. He even posted on Weibo that if he got the #1 spot on all 3 lists, he would give his fans a nude photo. Although Jiang Mai was a playboy, he never took big pictures. Usually, when he posted photos, he would at most show his abdominal muscles. It was really a great benefit for him to take a nude photo with Jiang Mai. The fans were so excited that as soon as the voting began, Jiang Mai had already started to dominate the rankings. The 3 lists that Jiang Mai referred to were the most popular male actor in the entertainment circle, which everyone fought for every year. There were 2 other lists, most handsome male actor in the entertainment circle, and most wanted to sleep with male actor in the entertainment circle. He also wanted the most wanted to marry female actor, but his uncle was above him. Plus, with his usual image, girls wanted to sleep with him more, so he didn't think about it. In the past, because the fans had limited votes, each person only had 2 votes. Therefore, Lei Ming would only protect the most important list. But this year, Jiang Mai decided to dominate the list after being provoked by Xing Hui. It was rare for Jiang Mai to be so ambitious and energetic. Lei Ming couldn't ask for more. He had been so busy these 2 days. At the fan meeting, Jiang Mai changed his iconic messy blonde hair. He cut his hair short and washed it back to its original dark brown color. He was wearing a simple black suit. The tailor design wrapped around his thin waist. The carefree look between his eyebrows turned into a calm and restrained light. This was the first time Jiang Mai showed up since he left angrily at the signing ceremony of the world. Thousands of fans who loved him were waiting for him. When they saw such a new idol appear in front of them, all the fans were excited. My, oh my God, he's so handsome. I've never seen my like this. He's handsome to a new height. Mom, I'm in love again. In the end, the effect was unexpectedly good. Not only did the votes on those 3 lists increase rapidly, but even the votes on the Wanna Marry Most list increased by a lot. On Starlight's side, there were a few young stars who had been in the limelight recently, but their rankings had all fallen by a large margin. Starlight probably knew that they couldn't suppress Jiang Mai anymore, so they tried their best to protect one of them. They threw all their votes to the most popular one, but even so, they still couldn't catch up with Jiang Mai's votes. Lei Ming was extremely excited. I can finally take back the rankings. Last year, because of Jiang Mai's slacking, the list was all taken by the people from Starlight. As soon as Jiang Mai returned to the nanny van, although he still looked mature and steady, his demeanor immediately returned to normal. He scratched his silky hair, raised his eyebrows, and shook his legs. I've told you that as long as I want to, there's nothing I can't do. If a tiger didn't show its might, people would really think that it was Hello Kitty. Daddy will teach you how to be a man. How's Ningxi doing? Jiang Mai asked seriously. Lei Ming looked at the data and frowned. Ningxi, I'm afraid it's a bit tricky. Chapter 1907. On the male star side, there were popular male star, national male idol, national husband, most promising male artist, most wanted to sleep with male artist in the entertainment circle, etc. For the female stars, there were popular female star, national goddess, most promising female artist, and so on. For the male celebrities, national husband and male celebrity I want to sleep with were added to make it more interesting. However, for the female celebrities, it was still a little sensitive when it came to women, so they didn't add these 2 lists. Instead, they only used national goddess. Therefore, in addition to popular female star, national goddess was also very valuable. It was not inferior to popular female star. Lei Ming analyzed. Currently, Ningxi is ranked 4th on the popular female star list. The top 2 are both from Starlight. The first is Han Zixuan, the second is Yin Yu, who worked for Su Tao, and the third is from Feng Xing. It's not looking good for the national goddess either. Han Zixuan is ranked 1st with 3 times more votes than the second. Jiang Mai's face darkened, and he did not speak. Lei Ming continued. Actually, Starlight probably predicted that you wouldn't be able to stop your momentum this time, so they didn't spend too much effort on your side. They probably didn't expect you to be so ruthless, not even leaving a single piece of the pie for them. Lei Ming paused and said, but as for Han Zixuan, so many things have happened just now. Han Zixuan was slapped in the face by Ningxi, so she must fight for the ranking this time. Otherwise, if Ningxi takes the top spot as soon as she comes back, it's like saying that Han Zixuan is not as popular as Ningxi, who just came back from retirement. The top spot is just a title. It doesn't seem that important, but the impact of the public opinion on the top spot is huge. Jiang Mai sneered, as if he had expected it. So, Starlight will help Han Zixuan occupy the top 2 spots no matter what. Lei Ming nodded. That's right. You know that Shangshi is not in a good situation now. If Starlight uses all their resources to help Han Zixuan fight for the top spot, it's useless no matter how much we advertise. The gap is too big. Therefore, even though Ningxi's comeback was so successful and her press conference was so successful, it was impossible for her to surpass Han Zixuan. Go find Su Tao. I'll buy a ticket for Ning Xiaoxi myself. Jiang Mai said angrily. Lei Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little princess, you know it's not a matter of money. Not to mention that the number of tickets we can get is limited. Besides, you have to ask for Ningxi's opinion, right? Hearing that, Jiang Mai picked up his phone and called Ningxi angrily. Hey, Ning Xiaoxi. Hey, nephew, you look so handsome today. Ningxi's teasing voice came from the other end of the phone. Obviously, She had seen his fan meeting. Jiang Mai was originally full of anger, but when he heard this, his anger was immediately extinguished. He was even happy, and his handsome face was full of pride. Of course, when young master gets serious and handsome, I'll be handsome all over your faces. That's not right. Who the hell did you just call an outsider? Jiang Mai avoided Lei Ming, gritted his teeth, and said in a low voice, "What are you shouting for? I'm telling you something serious." Chapter 1908. Yes, 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 Senior Jiang. What advice do you have for me? Ning, she spoke sensibly. Jiang Mai immediately began to talk. What advice can I have for you? Don't you know how important the ranking list is to your comeback? Do you want to be trampled by Han Zixuan's fake product? Why don't you care about it at all? Pull up the tickets. Nowadays, good wine doesn't need to fear the dark alley. If you don't shout, nothing will happen. Who will care about you? You really need to change your bad habit of burying your head in acting. Didn't Su Tao teach you anything? You know how to act tough, roll on the ground, and act cute. If you really can't. Ning, she laughed. If I really can't, don't want to post nude photos like you? Jiang Mai jumped up immediately. Of course not. I'm a man, so it doesn't matter. I could just post a half-naked photo to fool them. How can you do that? Dream on. I mean, if you really can't do it, you can pretend to be weak and coquettish. All men fall for it. Pfft. I didn't expect Senior Jiang to fall for it. I mean, most men. Most of them. Jiang Mai shouted and then snorted discontentedly. What are you laughing at? This is a very serious matter. Didn't you say we would slaughter the list together? It's rare for me to be so serious. Don't drop the ball at the critical moment. He just wanted to climb to the top with her, slaughter the list together. If he was alone, it would be so boring. Ning, she was more or less influenced by Jiang Mai's rare serious look these days. Even Jiang Mai was so serious. How could she slack off? It was fine if he didn't do it. Since she was back, she would naturally do her best. After a while, the girl's seemingly careless voice came from the other end of the phone. Don't worry, Senior Jiang. I will slaughter the list this time. Although her tone was light, it made Jiang Mai's heart beat violently. Inexplicably, he believed that she could really do it. But Jiang Mai still miscalculated after all. He never expected that. Ning, she's so-called slaughter, would be so inhumane that she would slaughter him too, dear town. Lu Tingxiao didn't know much about the entertainment industry, especially the messy rankings. However, because of Ning Shi, he learned about it from the system. He also knew that this ranking was very important to Ning Shi. Do you need help? Lu Tingxiao walked to the girl's side. Hearing this, Ning Shi turned to kiss Lu Tingxiao's chin and smiled. No need. You don't have to use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. There was no way she would bother her sweetheart to deal with someone of that level. Lu Tingxiao looked at the familiar bright light in the girl's eyes, which was 30% arrogant and 70% free and easy. His pupils suddenly contracted, and the temperature of his blood immediately began to rise. For some things, once the floodgates were opened, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to continue controlling them. One look from her, one subtle expression from her, was enough to make the self-control that he was so proud of fall apart and turn into nothingness by the time he reacted. He had already bent down and kissed the girl's soft and sweet lips. Ning, she was suddenly kissed while she was talking. She blinked her eyes in confusion, but she quickly accepted this unexpected kiss. When you're done with your work, I'll take you to a place, Lu Tingxiao said. Oh, Wu, sweetheart actually wanted to take me play? Ning, she immediately nodded in anticipation. She was even more motivated to work. Sure. Chapter 1909. Starlight Entertainment. Zheng Anru looked at Han Zixuan and heaved a sigh of relief. It's only the first day, and her votes are so high. It's impossible for her to be overtaken. I told you not to take that has-been actress seriously. She only knows how to play tricks. When it comes to real strength, she will be defeated. And the so-called strength not only referred to personal strength, but also the company behind her, her connections, and her resources. How many resources could Ningxi have? Han Zixuan looked at her position at the top of the list indifferently. Her expression didn't change. It was just as she expected. Starlight would never allow her to be overtaken by Ningxi. However, when she saw Jiang Mai's high ranking, Han Zixuan's face darkened. Zheng Anru noticed Han Zixuan's gaze and knew what she was thinking. She explained helplessly, Jiang Mai has always been popular. Now that the truth has been revealed and the scandal has been cleared, his popularity will inevitably increase. Besides, I don't know what happened to Jiang Mai this time. He didn't pay much attention in the past, but this time he suddenly worked so hard. In order to make sure that you can overtake Ningxi, Starlight has invested all their resources in you. So I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your position on the male star list. Han Zixuan naturally knew this, but how could she bear it? Jiang Mai was an unappreciative person who made her look bad time and time again. He even caused her to be scolded by his fans. Naturally, she couldn't bear to see him get any better. However, she also knew that her top priority was to overtake Ningxi. She couldn't be distracted to deal with Jiang Mai, so she had to bear it for the time being. The voting period was 1 week. In the next few days, Ningxi increased her efforts to solicit votes. Under the planning of Su Tao and Liang Feixing, Ningxi's vote soared, and she successfully ranked second on both lists. However, there was still a big gap between her and Han Zixuan, who ranked first. It was obvious that Starlight had invested all their resources in Han Zixuan. Her votes were terrifying, and it seemed that she wouldn't give way to either of the two lists. Because Han Zixuan was firmly suppressing her, Ningxi's hard-earned second place was not only useless, but even more ironic. Seeing that there was only 1 day left, there was almost no suspense left in the rankings. With such an intense effort to canvass for votes, the fans' tickets had almost been squeezed dry. It was almost impossible to make a comeback on the last day. Although Jiang Mai had successfully dominated 3 rankings, his face was extremely gloomy. If I had known that woman was so cunning, I would have asked my fans to vote for you directly. Over the past few days, Han Zixuan had been jumping up and down, using all kinds of methods. First, she used her status to snatch all the best jobs, then went around to advertise and canvass for votes. Finally, she even fainted from exhaustion on the set. Zheng Anru took the opportunity to complain about how hard her Zixuan worked, acting pitiful. What's the hurry? It's not the end yet. Ningxi glanced at Jiang Mai, who was blinking back and forth. Looking at Ningxi's calm demeanor, a certain eunuch almost died of anger. There's only 1 day left. How can I not be anxious? There's also tomorrow night's Starlight Night, Ningxi said, her eyes shining with a mysterious light. Jiang Mai curled his lips and muttered, "What's the use of that? Besides, it'll be too late by then." Chapter 1910 Starlight Night was the awards ceremony of Entertainment Light. Not only would it be broadcasted live on many online platforms, but it would also be broadcasted on 4 major TV channels. The banquet would start at 8 p.m. sharp. After the 4-hour banquet, all the rankings would be announced at 12 a.m. sharp, and the awards would be given out. In other words, there were only 4 hours left before the Starlight Night ended. What could they do in 4 hours? It was no wonder that Jiang Mai was so anxious. But there was no other way except for the last gamble. They had decided to perform the classic opera, The Phantom, that night. This opera is mainly about a Paris opera house. Strange things happen frequently. The original prima donna was almost crushed to death. The theater appeared a creepy, illusory male voice. This voice came from the theater's underground labyrinth, the ghost living in the theater's underground labyrinth. The Phantom, in the name of the opera, referred to this ghost. The Phantom fell in love with the actress Christine, secretly taught her how to sing, and helped her get the role of the lead actress. Christine, on the other hand, loved the theater manager, Raoul, and because of jealousy, the Phantom began to kill and imprison him. At the end of the story, the female lead Christine used a kiss to call back the beauty and kindness in the Phantom's heart. The Phantom realized that her love for Christine had surpassed her possessiveness, so she gave in to Christine and Raoul, leaving the cloak and the mask behind, and disappeared into the dark underground maze alone. This opera was mysterious and beautiful, and it had been adapted into various themes, including movies. It was one of the most classic operas. This time, they had arranged for Ning she to play the role of the female lead Christine, and Jiang to play the role of the tall and handsome Raoul. Because the difficulty of the Phantom was very high, and they were pressed for time, they had invited a professional opera actor to help them. Thinking of this, Jiang Mai's head hurt even more. Not to mention the difficulty of performing an opera, both acting and singing skills were indispensable. Even the most experienced artists might not be able to perform well in an opera. More importantly, how many people would still be interested in something like opera these days? Even if they could perform well, it would be a waste. They might as well dance and sing a pop song like everyone else. However, Ning she insisted, so he had no choice but to cooperate with the rehearsal. Fortunately, he had played music before acting. Although he hadn't sung for a long time, he could still perform well after some practice. He didn't want to say anything more about Ning Shi, that omnipotent freak. Starlight Entertainment. Han Zixuan Studio. The room was filled with expensive clothes and accessories, dazzling the eyes. Up until now, there was almost no possibility that Han Zixuan's votes would be surpassed. They were not worried about this. However, he couldn't let his guard down for tomorrow night's Starlight Night. After all, Ning Shi was known as the red carpet queen back then. None of them. Han Zixuan looked at the expensive clothes with disdain. The stylist looked embarrassed. These are the best we have. Zixuan, look at this. It's a 100-year commemorative collection from House C. They never lent it out. It took me a lot of effort. Han Zixuan's face instantly turned cold. Are you questioning my taste? How could that be? I got it. I'll continue to look for other things. For the sake of this gift, the stylist had been so busy for the past few days that she had almost vomited blood. At this moment, she could only suppress her anger. Chapter 1911. As the stylist tidied up the room full of gowns, she complained in her heart. She was too picky. What did she want to wear? A dragon robe? Ning she wore a plain white cheongsam, but she still dominated the audience. In the end, the clothes depended on the person. If the person was not good, what was the use of being picky about clothes? Of course, she absolutely did not dare to say a word of these rebellious words. She could only go out with her tail between her legs to continue looking. Shortly after the stylist left, Zheng Anru came in. Looking at the room full of gowns and Han Zixuan's ugly face, Zheng Anru immediately knew what had happened. She walked over and comforted her with a relaxed smile. Zixuan, are you still worried about the gown? Don't worry, what decent gown can they get? Don't worry, President Ning has already sent someone abroad to help you get it. It will be here before tomorrow night. Hearing this, Han Zixuan's face relaxed a little. Since President Ning helped her get it, there must be no problem. Thinking of something, Han Zixuan looked up at Zheng Anru and asked, Did you find out about Ning Shi's program? At the mention of this, Zheng Anru immediately laughed. Yes, they have been rehearsing recently. What kind of old opera is it? How could they think of it? Opera? Han Zixuan also sneered. They think they are elegant and different. I think they are crazy to show off. Look at what era it is now. Who will be interested in that kind of thing? Don't let the audience fall asleep. That will be funny. Zheng Anru looked disdainful. Then she said excitedly, Zixuan, your dance will definitely amaze everyone. In the blink of an eye, it was the last day. In Su Tao's office, a young female artist sat on the sofa, twisting her fingers and looking nervous. Brother Tao, I can't, such an important thing. What if I screw it up? Su Tao advised her earnestly. Qin Shuang, you have been in the industry for so many years, and you have always been very diligent. I've seen all of this. You only lack an opportunity. Now that the opportunity has fallen on your head, you still push it away. Don't you think you are stupid? Qin Shuang still looked flustered. Did brother she suddenly decide to change to another program? So you want me to replace her as the female lead? It's not that I don't want to help, but I'm really worried that I won't be able to do it well. I'm afraid that I might cause trouble for the company. She was just a C-list artist. How could she be qualified to attend such an important event and take on such a crucial task? Ning, she didn't change her program. She just changed her role. Su Tao didn't explain much and continued to persuade him. What are you afraid of? You don't believe in yourself, but don't you believe in Ningxi and me? You have a professional background, and before you entered the industry, you had always been doing stage plays and operas. You are very familiar with the Phantom, so no one else but you. Ningxi has mentioned it to me before. She said that she wants to help you. This is a great opportunity for you to make a comeback, silly girl. When Su Tao said this, Qin Shuang felt even more pressure. I still don't think I can. Su Tao tried his best to coax and deceive her, but in the end, this last still refused to budge. He simply wanted to vomit blood. This girl was good in every way. She had always done things in a down-to-earth manner, but the bad thing was that she was too down-to-earth, so she didn't have enough courage. Chapter 19:12. At this moment, the door of the fitting room behind Su Tao was pushed open by a slender white finger, and a man wearing a classic European retro tuxedo walked out. Under the mask, the man's exquisite lips, as if carved by the hand of God, opened slightly. What's wrong? Qin Shuang is unwilling? Qin Shuang looked at the man, who suddenly appeared in front of her, and blurted out a cry of surprise. Her eyes were full of incredible, and her eyes were quickly red and moist. The whole person seemed to be so excited that her lips trembled, and she couldn't even speak. The man in front of her was wearing a full white dress, which was the most exquisite and expensive style of men's clothing in medieval Europe's upper class. It was a classic tuxedo with a white shirt and bow tie, paired with a black wool shawl decorated with antique black jade. He looked like a noble young master who had walked out of an oil painting. Brother Shi. Qin Shuang is one of Ning Shi's hardcore, die-hard fans, and naturally recognizes at a glance that the celestial being in front of her is Ning Shi in men's clothing. The next second, Qin Shuang almost did not hesitate to open his mouth. I do. She had never expected that the reason why Ning Shi suddenly gave up the leading role was not because she wanted to change the program, but because she wanted to play the difficult role of Phantom as a man. However, looking at the person in front of her, looking at Ning Shi in men's clothing that she had not seen for a long time, Qin Shuang's heart was suddenly full of certainty. If it is Brother Shi, it must be possible. Even she herself, at the thought of acting with Brother Shi, suddenly all the fear and anxiety in her heart disappeared. Su Tao was dumbfounded when he saw Ning Shi changing her clothes and coming out. He was stunned for a long time before he reacted. He forcibly pulled back his gaze that was almost glued to Ning Shi's body. Fuck, I'm a straight man, but I was almost turned gay by your handsomeness. Even though he already knew how scary Ning Shi was in men's clothing, after seeing her again a year later, Ning Shi had always looked like a fairy. Not only him, but almost everyone had forgotten what Ning Shi looked like in men's clothing. Now that he saw it again, the impact was simply unimaginable. Don't say anything else, just look at Qin Shuang. That girl's reaction can predict one or two. The corner of Su Tao's mouth twitched, and he snorted unhappily. It's good to be handsome. It's useless even if I talk until my mouth breaks. You want me to agree just because I said something? Qin Shuang suddenly blushed and lowered her head. She was reluctant to move her gaze away from Ning Shi's body. The watery and sparkling little eyes were like looking at her long-lost first love. Brother Shi, the role you're going to play is a ghost? Qin Shuang looked at Ning Shi's costume and the mask in his hand and asked. Ning Shi nodded. Yeah, that's what Brother Tao and I were planning to do. The reason why we only informed you on the last day was because we were worried that Starlight would find out about our plan. Qin Shuang nodded again and again. So that's how it is. Ning Shi finished, picked up the white mask in his hand, covered half of his face, looked at Qin Shuang and asked, You are more professional. How about this? Will it be incompatible? Qin Shuang covered her small heart that was about to jump out and fly to the opposite side. She shook her head like a rattled drum and blurted out, How could it be? Not at all. If I were Christine, I would definitely choose you, not Raoul. Just as Qin Shuang finished this sentence, the door of Su Tao's office was pushed open from the outside. When Raoul pushed the door, Jiang Mai happened to hear Qin Shuang's words and suddenly exploded. Fuck. Why? Why don't you choose me? The moment he said this, Jiang Mai saw Ning, she behind Qin Shuang in a retro dress and half of her face was covered by a mask. Fuck this young master's dog eyes. Chapter 19:13. My God, my eyes. Jiang Mai covered his blinded eyes with his hands in agony. Damn it, how could he forget this bastard's ultimate skill? He was wondering why she suddenly wanted to perform in an opera. It turned out that she had already dug such a big pit. Heh, Han Zixuan could steal all of Ning Shi's resources and imitate everything about Ning Shi, but there was one thing that she never dared to try. He vaguely remembered that Han Zixuan had actually tried to dress as a man once. But it was no less shocking than Liang Biqin, who stole Ning Shi's "I only like you." She had made a fool of herself by imitating Ning Shi. Because the traces of imitating Ning Shi were too obvious, it even caused a group of Ning Shi's die-hard fans to ridicule her. Later, Xing Hui made great efforts to erase all the traces and never thought of letting Han Zixuan take the path of killing both men and women again. At this moment, although Jiang Mai was almost blind, he couldn't help but look at the opposite side. He was so angry. She was actually more handsome than him. If he were a woman, he would want to marry her. Bah, what was he thinking about? Jiang Mai got rid of the disappointing thoughts in his mind. Although he was extremely jealous, he was still very stubborn. He snorted, squinted at her, and said disdainfully, "It's not that exaggerated. It's just SOSO." Hearing that, Ning Shi raised her eyebrows slightly. Her fingers stroked the white mask on her face, and she took a step closer to Jiang Mai unhurriedly. She dragged her voice and said, "Really? Just SOSO?" Jiang Mai took a step back vigilantly. "That's right." "Oh." Ning Shi narrowed her eyes and took another step closer. "Then do you believe that? I could turn you gay in 3 seconds?" Ouch. Jiang Mai immediately jumped away and hid in a corner with his hands over his head. "Brother, I was wrong. Please let me go." He would never be so mean again. He didn't want to be as miserable as Mo Chinchio, who was forced to turn gay and couldn't be hard in front of a woman. Although that guy deserved it, it was really too miserable. Qin Shuang looked at the interaction between the two and burst into laughter. Elder brother Shi and senior Jiang are so lovey-dovey and well-matched. She almost felt that she was an unnecessary female lead. Su Tao's eyes lit up, and he rubbed his hands excitedly. All right, stop playing. Time is limited. Hurry up and rehearse." In the following time, the whole rehearsal hall was filled with Jiang Mai's angry roars. Hey, Qin Xiaoshuang, I'm a male lead, okay? Are you giving your affectionate eyes to the wrong person? Christine, I am your childhood sweetheart, your love. Are you going to cheat on me? Ning Xiaoxi, that's enough. My female lead is about to be teased to death by you. Can't you just follow the script? What's your major? Fuck, because I'm not attractive enough? How could yours truly not be charming enough? Just you wait. The final result was that the fish in the moat suffered when the city gate was on fire. Jiang Mai was instantly provoked by Ning Shi and began to act. Qin Shuang was almost fascinated by the two handsome men. She found that acting with elder brother, she was really magical. She could always easily bring people into the play and bring out the greatest potential of the other party. After the chaotic rehearsal, they went to have a meal together and then began to do makeup and get ready for the upcoming Starlight Night. Chapter 19:14. While doing the modeling, Jiang Mai began to circle Ning Shi anxiously again. Ning Shi, have you chosen your gown? What are you going to wear tonight? I just asked around. What antique level is that fake wearing tonight? Which royal concubine's gown is worth hundreds of millions? Just renting it for a day costs 8 million. We can't lose to her. Oh, Jiang Mai talked for a long time, but Ning Shi only gave him one word. Jiang Mai was about to vomit. What do you mean by oh? Say something. What are you going to wear? Ning Shi, I'll just wear a sack. Jiang Mai, I'm serious. Stop fooling around. I'm so tired. He finally understood the pain of an agent facing an uncooperative artist. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the long-awaited Starlight Night finally began. Everyone was cheering for their idol on the video websites and in front of their TVs. On the red carpet, stars shone brightly as all the big stars signed their contracts and entered. Lu Xiaoro was wearing a centennial gown of House C, which made her look very noble and elegant. The host tactfully praised, "Xiaoro is so beautiful today. Yeah, this gown seems to be the centennial gown of House C. I haven't seen anyone in the entertainment circle wear it yet." In the past, Lu Xiaoro might have been happy to be complimented like this. But now, she couldn't feel happy at all. Although this gown was precious, it was given to her because Han Zixuan didn't want it. It didn't fit her character or her temperament at all, but she didn't have a choice. When she was in Shangshi, Su Tao carefully arranged everything for her and chose the most suitable gown for her. But when it came to Starlight, all the best resources, all the rankings, and even the best gowns were given to the big stars like Han Zixuan. The big screen on the left of the stage showed the real-time votes. Lu Xiaoro didn't feel good when she saw her last place in the poll. But even Yin Yu was suppressed by Han Zixuan and could only be the second place forever. What could she say? At this time, Lu Xiaoro didn't expect to meet someone. Senior Sister Qin? Lu Xiaoro looked surprised. Xiaoro, although she was already prepared and expected to encounter such an occasion, Qin Shuang's expression was still somewhat uncomfortable. "It's really you. Heh, I thought I was mistaken." Lu Xiaoro looked up and down at the woman in a low-key dark dress, looking surprised to see her in such an occasion. After all, with Qin Shuang's position, she is not qualified to participate in this kind of occasion. "What? You're here to attend the banquet too?" Lu Xiaoro asked, even though she already knew the answer. Join the fun. Qin Shuang did not say much. She had entered the industry a few years earlier than Lu Xiaoro and was even called a senior by her. However, she was still a third-rate actress and could not lift her head in front of Lu Xiaoro. Lu Xiaoro crossed her arms over her chest, sizing up Qin Shuang, shaking her head and sighing, "Senior Sister Qin, it's not that I want to criticize you, but although your popularity is unbearable, but because Sister Yu and I helped you put in a lot of good words. Xing Hui originally wanted to pack a bag and poach you along with them. But you actually don't appreciate it. What's the point of staying in Golden Era? Hee, don't tell me you still believe in Su Tao's words? He said that you're stronger than others, that you have a solid foundation, that you're stronger than me and Yu, and that you're just missing an opportunity to soar into the sky." Chapter 19:15. Lu Xiaoro seemed to be talking about something funny. "You are so naive. As soon as she comes back, all the resources will naturally belong to her. Do you think there will be a day for you?" Qin Shuang listened to these harsh words and remained silent from beginning to end. She had a very important task tonight. She couldn't let Brother Shi and Brother Tao down. She didn't want to complicate the problem. Lu Xiaoro was originally very upset, but when she saw Qin Shuang's fate, she didn't dare to refute her sarcasm and left dejectedly. Lu Xiaoro immediately felt a lot better. On the other side, accompanied by the excited cheers and screams of the girls, Jiang Mai entered the stage. Compared with his relatively casual outfit on the day of the fan meeting, Jiang Mai's outfit could be said to have been carefully prepared from beginning to end. From the custom-made suit to the wristwatch and even the cufflinks, they were all made by famous designers. The whole set would cost at least tens of millions of yuan. Originally, Jiang Mai had a good foundation. With this outfit, the group of girls was even more attracted to him. None of the male stars and fresh meats present could catch up with him. With Jiang Mai's amazing appearance, his votes on the big screen on the left also rose rapidly. Although he had achieved the desired effect, Jiang Mai still frowned secretly. Just now, he was interrupted by Ningxi halfway through his conversation with her, so he didn't know what kind of gown she was wearing today. How come he found that he was becoming more and more like an old woman? While he was worrying bitterly, a trace of cold light suddenly flashed in Jiang Mai's eyes. Han Zixuan arrived. This time, Starlight Entertainment really spent a lot of money. In addition to the antique gown on Han Zixuan's body, the jewelry on her neck and wrists were all worth more than 10 million yuan. Even the seemingly inconspicuous earrings were worth more than 1,000,000 yuan. Even an idiot would become taller in this outfit. With so much money spent, naturally it was effective. Han Zixuan's appearance immediately caused the audience to exclaim in surprise. The host showered Han Zixuan with lavish praise, listing out the origins of every item on Han Zixuan. This made all the other female stars on the scene envious, jealous, and hateful. No wonder Han Zixuan wants to jump ship to Starlight Entertainment. They are really rich. Isn't that so? It's just a night of Starlight, but they actually spent so much money. But it's no wonder. Ningxi made a comeback and slapped Han Zixuan in the face several times. If she loses again this time, will she hide her face? Of course, Starshine wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Why isn't Ningxi here yet? I wonder what she'll be wearing today. Golden Era may not be as strong as Starlight, but this is their only chance to turn the tables. They'll probably give it their all. It's just that no matter what, it can't compare to Starshine's extravagance. I think they'll definitely be suppressed. After Han Zixuan walked the red carpet and entered the venue, everyone was gossiping and curious to see how Ningxi would perform tonight. Of course, this also included Han Zixuan. This outfit gave her enough confidence and confidence. Finally, Ningxi appeared before everyone's eyes. The next one to enter is the Golden Palm film queen that we haven't seen for a year. Ningxi. Jiang Mai craned his neck and raised his head. The next second, he was dumbfounded. He had always thought that Ningxi was deliberately toying with him, but never would he have thought that this girl actually put on a sack and came here. Although the design of the dress she was wearing was very beautiful and smooth, wasn't it just an ordinary linen dress? Chapter 1916. Han Zixuan sat in the audience, her face as black as the bottom of a pot. This feeling was as if she had exhausted all her efforts to prepare for a battle with the enemy. She was armed with knives and axes, and her body was covered with explosives. However, the enemy was unarmed and dressed in plain clothes, leisurely walking towards her. It was as if she was an ant that was not worth mentioning. The luxurious clothes that gave her confidence were now like ropes binding her body, filling her with a sense of humiliation. After a moment of astonishment, there was a burst of laughter. That's awesome. Han Zixuan is dressed like this, but Ningxi came with a sack. She doesn't take her seriously at all. They are not on the same level at all. Han Zixuan trembled with anger. She had never been so angry when Ningxi wore a white cheongsam and stole her limelight last time. Seeing that Han Zixuan was about to lose control of her emotions, Zheng Anru hurried to comfort her. Zixuan, don't be angry. Don't bother with that bitch who only knows how to play tricks. Although she humiliated us, she can't win any fans with her looks. Our ultimate goal tonight is to get the list. Then we'll get all the first places and slap her in the face. I want all the list. Of course. After sitting down, Jiang Mai glanced at Ningxi with an indescribable expression. Who gave you this idea? What? Ningxi raised her eyebrows. That's too bitch. Jiang Mai told the truth. At this time, a head popped out from behind. Su Tao said unhappily, Hey, what are you talking about? Don't you think it's great? You can save money if you piss Han Zixuan off. The corner of Jiang Mai's mouth twitched. Your focus is on saving money, right? Su Tao said seriously, You can't say that. Everything is for the company. Jiang Mai was speechless. This Su Tao was really awesome, but you're being too careless. You should respect the organizer, right? Jiang Mai muttered. Ningxi supported her head with her hand and said carelessly, What's the hurry? There's an awards ceremony later. I'll change then. Jiang Mai, this tone of, I can show off after I win the award. Do you have to be so arrogant? At this time, the camera suddenly pointed in their direction. Ningxi immediately smiled and greeted the fans behind the camera. Overwhelming smile was only SOSO. On the big screen, Ningxi's votes kept rising. Han Zixuan's votes were twice as many as Ningxi's. Ningxi's growth couldn't surpass Han Zixuan's, but Xing Hui had already thrown out all the votes in his hands, and he had basically reached the limit. Jiangmai subconsciously glanced to the side. Ningxi's soft and comfortable clothes, her soft hair casually draped over her shoulders, and the spring breeze-like smile on her face were even more attractive than her usual dazzling appearance. There was a kind of power that didn't have any killing power, but it quietly warmed people's hearts. It made people feel that the person in front of them was full of light, warmth, and love. It was to the extent that people who looked at her would be infected by such a beautiful feeling. Your clothes were designed by your designer again. Jiangmai couldn't help but ask, how was he always able to discover the unique temperament and moving parts of this lass? Ningxi nodded proudly. Yes, it's a new model. So fast. Another new model? Didn't we just see it? Jiangmai was surprised. Chapter 1917. Hearing that, Ningxi's eyes flashed with a dark light. Their previous return to simplicity had just become popular, and history had followed suit. They even advertised on the official website that Dai Wei had spent half a year on this design. He used his fame to distort the truth and accuse Zhe Ling of plagiarism. Although there were some rational buyers who had seen the order of the launch and understood what was going on, they were still the minority. Fortunately, she had always believed that in the face of real power, all schemes and tricks were in vain. Recently, it was as if her little fresh meat designer had been possessed by the god of design. His inspirations came one after another. He had just come up with Return to Simplicity, and now he had come up with a new theme, which was the series she was wearing called Love. If they had the ability, they would continue to follow suit. They could only play the trick of reversing black and white once. Did they think they were fools? Although Ningxi didn't answer, Jiangmai basically understood that the designer couldn't design anything when Ningxi wasn't around. But when Ningxi came back, she was full of inspiration. Obviously, he regarded Ningxi as his muse, the source of inspiration. What's the ranking of our show? Jiangmai asked Su Tao behind him. It's very high, the fourth. You can go backstage to prepare later, Su Tao answered. Damn, why is it so high? Of course it should be the finale, Jiangmai said unhappily. Usually, the more popular the show was, the more likely it was to be the finale. Su Tao rolled his eyes at him. Have you forgotten that we are here to canvass for votes? The most important thing is to buy time. It's better for us to be at the front. Han Zixuan wasn't worried about the votes, so she naturally prepared to be the finale. After the host's opening remarks, the program of the guests began. Generally, on such occasions, there was no other variety, except for singing and dancing. As expected, the first three performances were all standard performances. One of them was a professional singer, while the other two were actors. Regardless of how well they sang, since they were actors, the audience and fans did not have high expectations of them. As long as they were passable, it was fine. After 3 consecutive performances, the audience in the stands were already a little numb. At this time, the host began to announce the 4th program. Next, let's welcome Jiangmai and Ningxi to perform the classic opera Phantom. The Phantom is Andrew Lloyd Webber's masterpiece. Its wonderful music, romantic plot, and perfect dance have become an eternal masterpiece in musicals. I wonder what kind of new experience these two partners, who have so many CP fans, will bring us. Jiangmai, Ningxi, I can finally see them on the same stage again. The evening field party is satisfied. The audience below the stage immediately began to shout the names of Jiangmai and Ningxi, and the fans waiting in front of the live broadcast also began to crazily send messages. Although most of them did not understand opera, there were many fans who had seen the program list in advance and had specially done their homework in advance. I've done some research. Our Muyez temperament is perfect for Raoul's role. Handsome, elegant, and affectionate. There seems to be a perverted ghost with a disfigured face who has been wearing a mask all this time. It keeps pestering Christine, trying to ruin her relationship with Raoul. But why is it a musical? It's boring. A colleague of mine took me to watch one last time, and I almost fell asleep. Chapter 1918. After a while, the host left the stage. With a thud, the whole stage suddenly fell into darkness. The audience also quieted down, waiting for Ning Shi to appear. Think of me fondly, think of me when we have said goodbye to each other occasionally. Remember me if you have a moment of leisure, share some of your thoughts with me. Accompanied by an affectionate and melodious singing, the lights on the stage lit up. The audience immediately opened their eyes wide to look, and the next second, everyone was stunned. Because in the center of the stage, wearing a gorgeous medieval European dress, the female lead singing, Christine, was not Ning Shi. Hey, am I hallucinating? Why isn't the female lead Ning Shi? What's going on? Who is that? She looks familiar, but I can't remember her name. Was there a mistake somewhere? Didn't they say Ning Shi and Jiang Mai? The audience was in an uproar as they whispered to each other. Then a man's voice rang out. Is it possible? Could be Christine? A long time ago. It seems so long ago, we were so young and naive. She may not remember me, but I remember her. Jiang Mai appeared. Because of Christine's singing on the stage, Raoul, who was listening at the side, suddenly recalled the girl in front of him. She was his childhood playmate. At this moment, Qin Shuang naturally saw the strange eyes of the audience. She suppressed the uneasiness in her heart and continued to sing with Jiang Mai. Thinking back to those days, thinking back to those times, thinking back to those things we have never done, there's not a day that I don't think of you. Qin Shuang's gorgeous dress made her palm-sized, delicate face exceptionally charming, and her moving voice was even more intoxicating. While the audience was full of doubts, they couldn't help but continue to watch. A pair of lovers holding hands with tears in their eyes, recognizing each other and telling each other their hearts. Raoul, played by Jiang Mai, couldn't resist the love in his heart. He asked Christine for a date, and Christine readily agreed. The atmosphere on the stage was sweet. However, when Christine went back to her room to change clothes, suddenly there was a distant and empty song in the air. Night comes, feeling gradually sharp and clear. Dark night flows, awakening imagination, because this is the symphony of the night. This low, hoarse voice was like the singing of a siren, causing people's hearts and souls to tremble. Not only did it attract Christine on the stage, but it also made the audience below the stage and the fans in front of the live broadcast, who were originally restless because of the sudden substitution, subconsciously hold their breaths and stare. This voice, why does it sound so familiar? On the VIP stand, Han Zixuan frowned. Zheng Enru sneered. These people are playing tricks. What kind of tricks are they playing? To actually let Qin Shuang, a small third line, come to the female lead? Is there something wrong with her brain? Han Zixuan didn't say anything. She felt like she had overlooked something, but she couldn't remember what it was. Softly, softly, let the music caress you. Listen to it. Touch it. Give yourself to it silently. Christine was bewitched by the song and forgot about her promise with Raoul. She followed the direction of the music and opened the door of the secret room in a daze. She walked towards the mysterious underground secret room. At this moment, all the audience and fans have been attracted by the plot, staring at Qin Shuang, waiting, what will Christine find in the end? Chapter 1919. Open your heart. You don't have to struggle anymore in the darkness, in the boundless darkness of the movement of the night. Close your eyes and set off to a strange new world. Finally, Christine was led by the song to open a door and arrived at the mysterious kingdom of darkness. At the same time, the audience's curiosity had reached its peak. However, at this time, Christine suddenly fainted in the beautiful song. The moment the audience's heart fell to the bottom of the abyss, a black shadow flashed by, and Christine fell into an embrace. He was wearing a British-style tuxedo, a woolen cloak, and a white mask. The half of his face that was exposed was breathtakingly beautiful. He was so elegant and noble, but he exuded a gloomy and evil aura. He stared at the girl who was unconscious in his arms. His eyes were full of jealousy and possessiveness, as if they could burn everything. The whole scene was silent, as if time had stopped. Han Zixuan finally remembered what she had forgotten, and her face turned as white as paper. But it was too late. Everything was too late. After a short silence, the audience burst into earth-shattering screams. Brother, am I dreaming? No one had expected that. Even the fans who knew the plot of The Phantom. Ningxi would play the role of the ghost in men's clothes instead of the female lead. Seeing Ningxi in men's clothes and seeing the long-lost brother Shi, they were as excited as seeing Ningxi again at the promotional ceremony of the world. On the big screen on the left, Ningxi's votes were rising like crazy, and Jiang Mai's eyes almost cramped. Damn it, did it have to be so exaggerated? Wasn't it just a change of clothes? And only half of her face was exposed. What's so good about being black? Look at yours truly. Look at me. Look at my shiny golden body. Yours truly is clearly more handsome. However, Jiang Mai, who was looking for the missing female lead on the stage, was basically invisible. Not only was the woman stolen, but the fans also ignored him. She was not disturbed at all. He was still completely immersed in the plot. He gently put Christine on the bed, and his slender white fingers couldn't help but touch her cheek. Abandon all your thoughts about the past to the secular world. Close your eyes and let the music free you until then. Until then, you belong to me. The moment the words "belong to me" were uttered, the screams from the audience were so loud that the roof was about to be torn apart. In the next second, Ningxi held the girl's hand and gently placed it on his chest. He lowered his eyes and slowly approached the girl's lips, drifting, falling, sweetly drunk. To touch me, to trust me, to savor every feeling. At this moment, the roof was about to be blown off. All the girls on the scene were trembling with excitement. Their faces were red and their hearts were racing. It was as if the one lying on the bed was them who was about to be kissed. Even the men could not avoid it. Every one of them blushed. Moreover, they were not imagining themselves as a ghost. Instead, they were imagining themselves as the female lead. The pitiful boys could only keep muttering that they were straight, desperately trying to brainwash themselves with their goddess. In the end, he realized that the goddess wasn't even as good-looking as him. What was worse was that he found out that his goddess was Ningxi. Oh no, I'm bent. Chapter 1920. Noble but evil, crazy but restrained. Her face was ruined, but she was still breathtakingly beautiful. Such a contradiction was perfectly integrated in Ningxi's body. She gave Ghost a new life. Ghost quietly looked at the girl on the bed and sang in a very bewitching way. Let the dream begin. Let the darkness in your heart fade. Bow to my music, bow to the power of the music of the night. Accompanied by the seductive voice, whether it was the fans at the scene, the audience in front of the TV, or the people watching the live broadcast, no matter men or women at this moment, all of them bowed down to the person on the stage. Ningxi's singing was not bad. It was a combination of traditional singing and popular singing, but there was still a gap when compared to absolute professional singing. However, the emotion contained in her voice was incomparable to any professional singer. She had completely integrated her acting skills into the music. After a little makeup, the low, hoarse, and moving voice that belonged to a young man and a woman, and the enchanting half-face that disregarded gender were enough to make people go crazy. Just as the audience was intoxicated, the lights on the stage suddenly dimmed. When the lights came on again, Ghost had disappeared. Christine lay back in her room, as if all this was just a dream. The musical, which had originally received very little attention and acceptance by the public, had now completely attracted everyone's attention. Everyone was waiting with rapt attention for the next performance. The directors of the 4 major satellite TV stations received the notice almost at the same time. At this time, the ratings were rising rapidly, and it was expected to break the record of Starlight Night over the past 10 years. Needless to say, the popularity of the live broadcast of Starlight Night had soared to the first place. Following that, Christine and Ghost spent a period of time together like a teacher and a friend. Ghost secretly taught Christine how to sing and removed all obstacles for Christine. She even did not hesitate to get injured and kill people to push her to the position of the female lead. However, all this in exchange for only Christine's fear, and her feelings for Raoul became more and more inseparable. After the accident on the stage, Christine and Raoul took advantage of everyone's panic and escaped to the roof. There, she told Raoul what had happened to her, and Raoul expressed his long-hidden love for Christina, and they sang All I Ask of You to express their love for each other. The spirits saw all of this, and it was pained by Raoul's obsession with Christina and Christina's betrayal. It decided to curse them. Finally, he could not take it anymore. In his anger, he cursed, and at the end of the performance of Faust, the giant chandelier on the stage fell on Christine, pouring out his anger and warning. At this point, the plot entered the second act. Half a year passed, and the haunting ghost never appeared again. The chandelier was repaired, and a fancy dress party was held in the theater to celebrate this new life. Christina and Raoul, who were secretly engaged, danced hand in hand in the crowd. Just as the fun was going on, a guest wearing a Red Death mask suddenly appeared. Everyone was shocked by this strange and scary costume. It was Spectre, who had been missing for a long time. Under Ghost's meticulous arrangement, he disguised himself as someone else and got the opportunity to share the stage with Christine. Chapter 1921. When Ningxi appeared in front of the audience again in such a demonic red outfit, the livestream website was flooded with comments of lick the screen, especially the song Can't Go Back that the ghost was about to sing next. Put down all your defenses, obey me, completely take a step that can't go back, give up thinking. Let the dream continue, what a raging flame. Even the soul is drowned, what a sweet temptation lies in front of us. The fans in the audience went crazy as Ghost sang softly too. Christine, obey. Brother She, I'm yours. My body, my heart, my soul, my everything is yours. I came here, writes hard no why in my head. I've imagined that our bodies are intertwined. He decided to take a step that can't go back anymore. Oh my God, our bodies are intertwined. Please let me come. Our game of passion is finally on. Don't think about right or wrong. The last question, how long do we have to wait to become one? Will our blood start to boil? When will the flame of passion devour us? Now. Brother She, please devour me. I'm lying flat. The comments in the live stream were overwhelming. Say you'll share everything with me, your only love. Your whole life guide me. Save me from my loneliness. Save me. No matter where you go, take me with you. At the end of the song, almost everyone was infected by the ghost's passionate and hopeless love for the female lead. Even if he was stubborn, even if he was unscrupulous, it was still heartbreaking. To him, the female lead was his everything. She was his only salvation. The truth was, Christine loved Raoul, and she loved the Phantom. Between angel and demon, she lost herself. She kept swaying. She knew that he was dangerous and that he belonged to the darkness. But she couldn't help but get closer to him. On the stage of Don Juan, they got closer and closer and finally hugged each other tightly. This song was like a foreshadowing that two people who shouldn't love each other would inevitably fall in love. Finally, the Phantom sang to Christine the song that Raoul had sung to her as a pledge of love, Alias of Thee. The song woke Christine, and she recognized the Phantom. When the female lead took off the ghost mask on the spot and saw through his identity, everyone didn't sigh in relief. Instead, they felt worried. On the stage, Ghost awkwardly avoided the female lead's line of sight. The other half of his face was completely exposed to the woman he loved the most. All the audience and fans felt extremely distressed. Because everyone's attention was on the stage at this moment, no one noticed that Ningxi's votes were getting closer and closer to Han Zishuan's. Although everyone's votes had almost been squeezed dry in the early stages, there were still some people who preferred to vote at the last moment. In addition, under the intense excitement, everyone spontaneously canvassed votes for each other in private. From their parents, friends, colleagues, to passers-by, the power of the masses could never be measured as long as you had the strength. In the end, The ghost had completely lost its mind and tied Christine up in its underground chamber. Why? Why is the world so unfair to me? Just because I have a scary face, a face that even my mother can't bear to look at. The ghost trembled in extreme pain. Chapter 1922. Christine said agitatedly, "No, it's not that the world is unfair to you. It's not that the world is wrong. It's that you've imprisoned your own inspiration. In order to achieve your goal, you're willing to kill people and take away someone else's love. I'm grateful for your help, but my feelings for you are now only hatred." Hearing these words, hearing the woman he loved say that he hated him, Ningxi's arrogant, angry, and jealous expression instantly became empty. He stood there alone, as if everything had lost its meaning to him. All the audience subconsciously straightened their backs. Their hearts tightened, and their nerves were extremely tense. At this moment, Raoul appeared. Jiangmai was very professional. He shouted, "Your Excellency, please let Christine go. I'm willing to do anything for you." Looking at the man who had taken away the girl he loved, the ghost lost control again. He used a special noose and wrapped it around Raoul's neck. "Ah, don't!" Christine cried out in alarm. The ghost looked at Christine, who was screaming nervously, and forced her to make a choice. "Now, I'll give you two choices. Use Raoul's life in exchange for your freedom. If he's dead, I'll let you go. Or put on a wedding dress and become my bride in exchange for Raoul's life." Raoul was also deeply in love with Christine, and he said without hesitation, "Christine, don't agree to him. Don't marry this demon. If you say that you love him in order to save me, then my life will also end." At this moment, the audience and the fans in the live broadcast were all spamming the screen. "What the fuck are you waiting for? Of course, marry the ghost. Marry him. Marry him. If you don't want to marry him, let me do it." When Jiangmai heard the urging from the audience, he almost vomited blood. Did girls nowadays like psychopaths and perverts? Damn it. Are you just going to watch me die? Where's your humanity? In the end, this deadlock. How can I solve it? This ungrounded musical had completely aroused everyone's interest. A small number of people who knew what was going to happen next were even more excited. They knew that there would be a kissing scene, a real kissing scene. Ha 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 ha. Faced with the choice given by the ghost, Christine fell into a painful struggle. In the end, she could not bear to see her lover, Raoul, sacrifice himself for her. Her helpless gaze suddenly became resolute. She finally mustered up the courage to raise her head and look at the spirit opposite her. She would tell Phantom how strong the power of love was. God would save his crazy soul in the end. The next second, Christine took a deep breath, took a few steps forward without warning, and gave Phantom a long kiss, although it was just a borrowed position. Qin Shuang's heartbeat was about to explode, and he almost used all his expertise to keep himself from losing his composure on the spot. The moment Ningxi was kissed, everyone at the scene was about to go crazy. The atmosphere reached an unprecedented peak. The viewership ratings of Guardian and the popularity of the live broadcast platform all broke all historical records at this moment. After a short performance, Ningxi's votes on the big screen almost caught up with Han Zixuan's. Suddenly, the girl he loved took the initiative to kiss Spectre. His wild and unruly expression suddenly turned blank. His originally gloomy and frightening face now made people feel that it was incomparably cute. Chapter 1923. A meaningful kiss, a redemptive question, like the light of the Creator in heaven, illuminated the closed heart of Ghost. In the end, he was completely subdued by the strength of Christina's firm love. At the last moment, because of a kiss, he finally understood that true love was not imprisonment or plunder. Ghost stepped back hurriedly and turned around to avoid the girl's sight. At the same time, he loosened the Punjabi sling around Raoul's neck. After a long time, he finally raised his hand with difficulty, waved at Christina and Raoul, and asked them to leave. Christina and Raoul rushed to each other in disbelief. Finally, Christina returned to Ghost, took off the ring that Ghost had put on her, and return it to him. Ning, she looked at her palm and slowly closed it, wrapping the ring in her palm. Step by step, slowly and alone, she walked to the throne in the corner of the stage. She watched the two lovers leave and sang alone. I feel so empty without you. What happened? You left me. I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to continue, but it's so hard. Am I wrong, or is this just a game? I can't believe you left me. I can't take another day alone. I can't forget you. This pain is going to break me, because we're over. I just want you back. I need you back. But I let you go. Now, it's over. The music was getting farther and farther away, and the stage returned to darkness. Everyone felt like a heavy stone was pressing on their hearts, and they couldn't breathe. The last scene. Many years later, Christina had passed away. When Raoul went to the cemetery to pay his respects to her, he found a rose tied with a black ribbon on her grave. The play ended. Until the end of the performance, everyone was still immersed in the plot and couldn't react for a long time. It wasn't until a long time later that the audience burst into thunderous applause. The applause lasted for a long time. The host came to the stage at the right time. I didn't expect Ning, Shi, and Mu Yi to bring us such a big surprise. The solid performance and singing skills of the female lead, Qin Shuang, also brightened our eyes, bringing us an unparalleled audio-visual feast. Now, let's invite our three leads to the stage. Accompanied by the host's excited voice, Qin Shuang and Jiang Mai went on the stage one after another. Both of them were still in their costumes. In this drama, Qin Shuang's every outfit was gorgeous to the extreme. Her small face, which was originally too low-key and slightly bland, was set off by at least 7 or 8 points. Especially when she acted with Jiang Mai and Ning Shi, the two big stars on the spot, she actually performed so well that she was instantly remembered in the hearts of the audience. Just now, there were already many people searching for information related to her. As for the orange that Jiang Mai was playing today, if Phantom was a devil, then Raoul, played by Jiang Mai, was an angel. He was a noble, but he fell in love with his childhood sweetheart, an orphan girl who grew up in the opera house. He loved her. He ran to the roof to confess his love to her. He went to the cemetery to call Christine, who was bewitched. He risked his life to go to the dungeon to save her. At the critical moment of life and death, he told her not to sacrifice her life for him. The ghost was crazy for Christine, but Raoul was willing to sacrifice his life for Christine's happiness. Chapter 1924. The two male leads in the drama were actually very outstanding, making it difficult to choose between them. Jiang Mai's character also attracted a large number of fans. Ning, she was even better. She only showed half of her face, and it was enough to make everyone go crazy. This was a 3-win situation. Because half of Ning Shi's face was disfigured, it took her a long time to make special effects, so it was a little troublesome to remove her makeup at this time. After Qin Shuang and Jiang Mai had gone on stage, she slowly walked out from behind the curtain. She was still wearing the same elegant costume, but this time, she had removed the cloak and mask. After removing the disfiguring effects, her stunning face was completely revealed to the audience. Ah, Brother Shi, Brother Shi, Brother Shi, Brother Shi, I want to bear your children. Facing the enthusiasm of the fans, Ning Shi took the microphone from the MC and said softly, "Thank you, everyone. Long time no see." These 4 words instantly ignited everyone's passion. Brother Shi, long time no see. Long time no see. Brother Shi, we miss you so much. Hubby, I love you. All these years, I've been keeping myself pure for you, waiting for you to come back. Can you do that? After Dream Seeker ended, Ning Shi had indeed not appeared in front of everyone in men's clothing for far too long. What's more, every time Ning Shi changed her outfit, it was as if she had a split personality. She became a completely different person. Her temperament and personality were completely different. It was no wonder that the fans were so excited. As soon as Ning Shi got on the stage and said, "Long time no see," the ranking on the big screen on the left suddenly changed. Ning Shi's votes had surpassed Han Zixuan's, who had twice as many votes as hers, and it was still rising. Han Zixuan, and Zheng Anru had been paying attention to the list. When they saw that Ningxi had surpassed them, their expressions changed. What's wrong with you guys? How could she surpass such a high number of votes? Does Zhao Wenliang have any emergency measures? No matter how calm Han Zixuan was, she couldn't help but panic when she saw the leaderboard on the big screen. Zheng Anru wiped her sweat. I was too ruthless in the beginning. Now I don't have any banknotes on hand. It's too late to collect some at the last minute. Damn it. Su Tao, that bastard, was simply too sinister. He actually used this move. This was clearly a list of female stars. What did Ningxi mean by doing this? This was clearly against the rules. I'm going to complain to the organizer. Han Zixuan's expression was extremely cold. You think the organizer doesn't know? Obviously, the host had communicated with Ningxi at the last moment and acquiesced to Ningxi's actions. They only needed popularity and popularity. Why would they care about what methods the artists used? They were too careless. They didn't expect that they would change their plan at the last moment. I was wondering why Ningxi's program was arranged so early. It turns out that she was waiting for us here. Our program is currently the finale, but I'm afraid it'll be too late by then. Why don't we move our program forward? That way, we can seize the time to pull in more votes. Zixuan, you've always appeared as a cold and aloof goddess. Now that you've broken through your image and performed a sexy dance, those men will definitely go crazy. Since Ningxi can catch female fans, let's catch male fans. Han Zixuan pondered for a long time. Although she still felt uncomfortable, she could only do this. Let's do as you say. Zheng Anru had a good plan, but she didn't expect that tonight. While Ningxi was flirting with the female fans, the male fans who had been turned gay were also crying. Chapter 1925. The program had a time limit. Each guest performance was only 10 to 15 minutes. Because Ningxi's and Jiang Mai's programs were combined, they got half an hour of time. They streamlined the musical and adapted it to be more popular. With the perfect cooperation of the three, the half-hour show, which was originally long for the audience, was full of explosive points. Until the end, everyone still wanted more. After the three left the stage, everyone's eyes were still on them, especially Ningxi. Thank you very much for the wonderful performance that the three of you have brought to us. The audience in front of the TV and the live broadcast, please don't leave. There are more exciting performances waiting for everyone. I'll leave you in suspense first. I wonder if anyone can guess who the next one will be? Although the host tried his best to create a sense of mystery, it was not as attractive to the fans as Ningxi, who had already taken his seat in the VIP seats. The audience in the stands watched Ningxi walk down the stage and then sit down in the VIP seats, whispering to Qin Shuang and Jiao Mai next to him. Obviously, he didn't do anything, but his every frown, smile, and word made people completely unable to move their eyes away. When the cameraman's lens occasionally swept to Ningxi's corner, the audience and the fans in front of the live broadcast all screamed excitedly, especially the fans in the live broadcast room. Great cameraman, please look at Brother Shi. Great cameraman, I want to look at my husband. Great cameraman, please do your best. At the same time, the lights on the stage dimmed, and only one beam hit the center of the stage. After a while, the dynamic music resounded throughout the banquet hall, filling everyone's eardrums. Dancers appeared one after another from behind the scenes, and the hot dance swept away the atmosphere in an instant. Under the stage, Ningxi sat there quietly with a completely different attitude from the stage. Because of the performance just now, his forehead and collarbone were slightly sweaty at the moment. What should we do? Because there were too many people who made suggestions, the cameraman looked at the reaction of the audience and fans and was inevitably in a dilemma. At this time, the director on the side decisively ordered, "Add more shots to Ningxi." But the next program is Han Zixuan's. Do you need me to teach you such a small thing? Don't be too obvious. Can't you see the opportunity? Don't you know how to change the angle? The person on the stage said as if it was a common occurrence. When the cameraman heard the words from the walkie-talkie, they immediately understood. After the dancers on the stage blew up the stage for a short while, suddenly, with a dong sound, a square hole opened in the center of the stage where the light was shining, and a person jumped out from it. And the person who jumped from the ground to the stage was Han Zixuan. She was dressed in a black, tight-fitting leather suit, revealing her slender waist and fair, slender legs. She had a head of jet-black wavy hair. She was a complete change from her usual noble goddess appearance. She was sexy and charming. This brand-new look and hot dance immediately attracted the attention of the audience and fans. Han Zixuan's votes also increased at an instant. On the ranking list, Ningxi and Han Zixuan were chasing each other. Below the stage, Zheng Anru was so nervous that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. At this moment, when she saw that everyone's reaction was within her expectations, she revealed a relieved expression. She knew that this move would definitely work. At this time, the number 1 cameraman suddenly captured something. Because he was the closest to Ningxi, he immediately pointed the camera lens of the number 1 cameraman at Ningxi. The camera on the big screen suddenly switched to the corner where Ningxi and Jiangmai were. Because Ningxi was wearing a heavy costume, she felt a little stuffy, so she stretched out her hand and unbuttoned the first button on her collar unhurriedly while watching the program on the stage. So handsome, so handsome, so handsome. My heart is going to burst. Hormones are bursting. Honey, you are so handsome. Keep unbuttoning. Don't stop. Chapter 1926. In an instant, almost all the fans and audience turned their eyes back to Ningxi, and Ningxi's votes soared like a rocket. As for the ratings, there was no need to mention it. Looking at the soaring ratings, the director was so excited that his heart almost stopped. He didn't blame the number 1 cameraman who changed the close-up of Ningxi halfway. Instead, he was full of appreciation and changed his words on the spot. Not bad, not bad. Ahem. Actually, it's obviously okay. The cameraman didn't dare to be too obvious. Now that they got the director's approval, they immediately took more shots. When a number 10 cameraman was aiming at Han Zixuan, she was also in the frame. Under the stage, Jiang Mai, who was sitting next to Ningxi, was dumbfounded when he saw the sudden rise in the number of votes that Han Zixuan couldn't catch up with. Fuck, what the hell? Didn't you just unbutton one of the buttons? Is it worth it? Qin Xiaoshuang, do you think these fans are stupid? Qin Shuang didn't give Jiang Mai any response. Jiang Mai turned his head and found that the little girl had already looked past him and was staring at Ningxi. He held his heart and looked as if he was going to faint. Jiang Mai, because he was sitting next to Ningxi, and the two of them had clearly appeared in the camera together, but he had been completely ignored. This had never happened since he debuted. Didn't all the male stars become foils in front of him as soon as he appeared? How could he be defeated by a woman? So, Jiang Mai couldn't bear it anymore. You just unbuttoned my shirt. Who doesn't know how to do that? Then he unbuttoned 3 buttons in a row. My. Jiang Mai's fans finally noticed their idol, and they began to scream one after another. After making such a big sacrifice, Jiang Mai finally got a little attention. Instead of being happy, he felt sad and stared sourly at someone who was sitting lazily on the seat. Ningxi noticed his gaze and glanced at the golden-haired guy beside her. Suddenly, she showed a thoughtful expression. Jiang Mai's hair stood on end. What are you worried about? Ningxi propped her head up and looked at him. She smiled and said faintly, I'm suddenly thinking, what would you look like if you cross-dress? Fuck, you actually fantasized about me wearing women's clothing. It was simply insane. Jiang Mai's hair stood on end. He covered his chest like a little wife. Ning Xiaoxi, you pervert. Although the fans and audience didn't know the content of the conversation between Ningxi and Jiang Mai, the lively and loving way they interacted with each other, and Jiang Mai's expression of being bullied to the point that he was on the verge of breaking down, were simply the perfect portrayal of a black-bellied attacker and its tsundere. Invisibly, the Fujoshi fans, who were the most powerful bodyguards, were all fired up. How loving. My Muyi is so cute when he gets angry. What a clear distinction between attack and defense. Brother Shi, attack my face. Muyi will definitely accept it. I really want to know what they're talking about. I know. I fucking recorded it and looked at the lips several times. Brother, she said he wants to see what Muyi looks like in women's clothes. Oh. Brother Shi is so awesome. I also want to know what my husband looks like in women's clothes. Below the stage, Jiangmai was watching the live broadcast on his mobile phone. His face was almost as black as the bottom of a pot. Fuck, who the hell is the one who is on the defense? I'm on the offense. Chapter 1927. Although the canvassing for votes had been very intense in the past few days, there were still some people who preferred to keep their votes until the end, and a large number of passers-by simply didn't bother to vote. But now, when their emotions were completely aroused, these votes were squeezed out in an instant. Not to mention the powerful force of the fans who were spontaneously canvassing for votes. Xing Hui had been trying to find a way, but he couldn't keep up with the speed of Ning Shi's votes on the stage. Han Zixuan danced until she was drenched in sweat, performing all kinds of sexy and explosive movements. Glancing out of the corner of her eye, she found that her votes had been completely crushed by Ning Shi, and the audience didn't seem to be cheering and screaming for her. At this moment, she suddenly realized something was wrong. When she turned around because of a dance movement, she was shocked to see that the big screen behind her was actually a close-up of Ning Shi, not her. Han Zixuan's face turned pale in an instant, and her feet moved in a mess. Seeing this, Zheng Anru's face also changed in anxiety. Damn it, what are those people doing backstage? This is Zixuan's show. Where are the cameras? Then, what was even more tragic was that, even though Han Zixuan had made such a serious mistake, no one noticed. Both were flirting, but Han Zixuan's way and Ning Shi's way, in contrast, were clearly superior. The former was too deliberate and sculpted, which made people feel that it was boring, while Ning Shi's "actually I didn't want to flirt with you at all" flirted with both men and women unknowingly, making everyone crazy. Even a subtle movement or a look could make people's hearts tremble. Finally, on the stage, Han Zixuan's show ended. And on the big screen on the left, Ning Shi's votes had actually exceeded Han Zixuan's by more than 2 times. And she was far ahead on both lists. This performance was obviously Han Zixuan's trump card to canvass votes, and the order was deliberately adjusted from the finale to the beginning, but it completely sent her to hell. Looking at the absolutely unsurpassable votes, Zheng Anru stood up abruptly, then fell back down in a daze, her face full of disbelief. This is impossible. How is this possible? Amazing. Brother Shi, your votes have overtaken her, and by a lot, and it's still increasing. Qin Xiaoshuang had been paying close attention to Ning Shi's votes and was very excited at this moment. This was simply a miracle. The person in front of him always had a way to accomplish the impossible. As long as he was by her side, he would feel at ease. Jiangmai glanced at Qin Shuang's eyes. Holding his chin, the corner of his mouth slightly twitched. Well, you hooked up with another one, you scourge. Although he was very jealous, seeing that Ning Shi finally occupied the list with him, Jiangmai was quite proud. TSK. This list is so cool. Popular male star number 1. Jiangmai National Prince Charming number 1. Jiangmai the male star I want to sleep with most. Jiangmai Popular Female Star number 1. Ning Shi National Goddess number 1. Ning Shi. The 5 most influential lists were all occupied by Shengshi Entertainment. As for Liu Tingxiao, who was as stable as Mount Tai on the National Husband number 1, he was definitely one of them. However, soon, Jiangmai couldn't show off anymore. With the end of Han Zixuan's program and the start of others' programs, Ning Shi's votes also rose quietly on some other lists that were originally impossible. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.